this weekend has really helped me to see the power of like networks and networking and asking for help. And that was like the big mantra to everyone that you met this weekend was, how can I be of service? How can I help?
You're in this room because you're already an outlier. You're an entrepreneur. One of the greatest benefits of you being an entrepreneur is that you can control your life and your time. Yes, freedom of time is one of the greatest benefits that you have. Because you're in this room, you keep growing, and some of you are thinking of doubling your business this year. We call that 2 times thinking. However, as you'll learn in this next session, 2 times can lead to increased pain, frustration, and actually a loss of your time freedom. Yes, a loss of your time freedom. The premise of this next session, I'm going to be talking to these 2 guys, is 10 times is easier than 2 times. In this session, you'll understand why 10 times thinking frees you from doing things that you're not a genius at doing because they aren't your unique abilities. 10 times requires you to find the who's in your life and your business that can do things even better than you can. When you do that, you have increased freedom of time, which you can then use to transform yourself, your thinking, and your future. There's nobody better to lead this discussion than Dan Sullivan and his Free Zone collaborator, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Now a doctor, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. As you might know, Dan Sullivan is the world's foremost expert on entrepreneurship. He's coached more successful entrepreneurs than anyone else on the planet that I know. He's the co-founder of Strategic Coach, which is the leading entrepreneurial coaching program in the world. Dan has taken off 180 days every year for decades. How is that possible? Because he's learned that 10 times is easier than 2 times. And that is the book that he and Ben Hardy are now writing. The first 2 books they wrote together, Who Not How and The Gap and the Gain, which are not only bestsellers, but have also led to hundreds of people to join Strategic Coach. Dr. Benjamin Hardy is an organizational psychologist whose books have been read by hundreds of thousands of people and his blogs have been read by hundreds of millions. He and his wife Lauren have 6 kids, and Ben has learned how to write many books and grow his business while spending increasing time with his family. He increases his freedom of time and impact by applying principles he and Dan will share with you today. So please welcome to the stage 2 dear friends of mine, Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, as they will show each of us how to create 10 times growth in our business. You guys pick where you want to sit.
I'll sit there.
Okay. Perfect. Well, welcome. So what's this whole 10 times thing? I'll start with that. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, what is that?
Or anything you want to say. I don't know. Start.
Yeah. This came up, first of all, from Strategic Coach experience. So we started the program in 1989 for entrepreneurs. And so around 95, so we had about 6 years, I started having examples in the clients that I was dealing with that they had gone 10 times. And what was interesting wasn't the result 10 times, but the kind of thinking, because it was a challenge. It's a challenging thing to have suddenly a 10 times increase. And this is revenue. I mean, we're talking about revenue. So I put together a thinking tool, which was called the 10 times mind expander, because I find if you have a 10 times result, but your mind hasn't expanded,
Right.
it's destructive. It's destructive of how you think about things. It's destructive about your relationships. It's destructive about a lot of things. Okay, so it's actually that it's what you do with your mind as you have that time of growth. So that's really where it started.
Wait, what year did the 10 times mind expand?
96, I think it was 90. So a year before you came.
Yeah. I started in 1996. It's really interesting that you say that. I mean, I'm just thinking of this right now. Is that when I first filled that out, my brain at the time was telling me that's bullshit. I mean, I'm not going to go 10 times. I mean, because I was still in that rugged individualist mode, trying to do everything. I didn't have any real concept of teamwork and all of that. And it's interesting that because that brought me back. I mean, we didn't have this discussion prior to this. Is all like stream of consciousness right now for me. But just thinking about the resistance that my brain had to that concept initially, but that was before I filled it out. And then when I filled it out and started thinking, because the brain cannot avoid a question, right? It starts making you really explore, well, what would have to exist in my life or not exist in my life in order for that to be a possibility, which is exactly what I would like to have happen with everyone here today. And many of you have already done this, you're already there. It's just, now how do we 10 times that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this first, Ben. Like, you are now translating a lot of Dan's thinking and concepts in the books, putting it out into the world. They're very, very amazing books. I mean, even the intro of The Gap. How many of you have read The Gap and the Gain? Okay, the intro, it's so good. So in the process of doing this, what has this been doing for your thinking? Because you have, you've gone through, you've had a crazy couple of years. I mean, instant kids, like instant oatmeal, and, writing all these books. You were at one point the #1 writer in the world on medium.com. You've totally transitioned and have a different thing. So you've completely I've seen so much growth in you even since, you first joined Genius Network and just everything going on. So what's it like to...
Well, one of the reasons, and sorry for my voice, but one of the reasons I like 10 times is for this very reason, that when you're at 10 times, it looks fundamentally different, whereas 2 times, you're just trying to do more of the same. And so when I first joined Genius Network, it was all blogs. I was starting my first book, whereas at 10 times, it does look fundamentally different. I'm no longer writing blogs. That makes absolutely no sense in this situation. And so I like that 10 times creates transformation. But as far as working with Dan, one of the things I love, so I actually choose the books. I was the one who chose Who Not How, and first time I ever read The Gap and the Gain, it just changed how I saw everything. And I knew Who Not How would be first, but I also had listened to Dan's talk, 10x is easier than 2x, and I think that we'll explain more of why that's true, but I was asking Dan, after Who Not How was in place, which book makes sense to go next, Gap and Gain or 10x? And his response was, well, there's no point in helping people go 10x if they're going to stay in the gap all along the way, and once you get up to 10x, why stay in the gap? And so it's a fun collaboration, honestly. It's very much a free zone. I think it makes life easier. I am in my unique ability, and it encourages me increasingly to go into my unique ability. So as one example, this is the first book where I've actually gotten a ghostwriter to write this book. I'm applying more Who Not How. One of the things that Dan talks about is never show up without a team. And I'm increasingly showing up in every situation I have with a better team. And so even with this book, in order for me to go 10x, I need to make my life easier. And it's amazing getting this writer who has written 30 books. She's a much better writer than me, and it makes my life so easy, and all of my stress is gone. And so I love learning, and so it's a beautiful, fun collaboration, a lot of freedom.
Yeah, well, let's define a couple of things too when you guys say it, because a lot of people here that are in strategic coach understand, coach talk, right, in the terminology, but what does free zone mean? How would you define that?
Well, another thing that I notice clients as they've really become successful, actually, not so much that they've become successful, but they've really become freed up their time, their money, their relationship, and their purpose. They stop competing. It's just something I noticed. They stop competing, and what they're looking more for, where it's not about cash anymore, it's about other people's capability. Yeah. Okay. So I write a lot. Actually, when I was 70, I said, what a really neat project would be is to write 100 books in 100 quarters, okay? And they're small books. Anyone who's seen our books, they're about 60 pages. And I'm just trying to think, there's Barnes & Noble was one of the big stores. I can't think of, what was the other?
Borders?
Borders had a survey of ebooks. And so ebooks for the first time actually gave publishers a way of measuring when someone started a book, how far did they get in the book? How much, if you bought a book, you got a best-selling book, but hardly anybody's read more than 10% of the book, okay? And so what they discovered is that if a book is over 200 pages, 3% finish the book. This is nonfiction, this is not fiction. Fiction, if it's a good story, everybody finishes the book. And then if it's 100 pages, only 10% of people finish the book. But if it's less than 60 pages or less, 80% of the people finish the book. So I said, I'll just write books that are copy-wise less than 60 pages. And a lot of people, if they have a book they've been working on for 20 years and it's got 25 chapters, they would have been better to produce 25 little books. Take a chapter, make it a book. Take a chapter, make it a book. And especially for entrepreneurs, because you're not writing the books for the money. You make your money with your business. The books are a marketing strategy. So I've done that. In 30 quarters, I've written 30 books. And what it does, and I didn't realize the value of doing that, but it gave when a capability like Ben came along, and I met him at my very first 100K meeting. And Ben came over and he had a break and he sat down with me and he said, I notice you write a lot of books, but you don't write for the popular market. And I said, if it's not finished in 90 days, it's not going to work with me, So I don't take on any project I can't finish in 90 days, I just fall off a cliff after 90 days. And I'm sure not going to attend any meetings, and I'm sure not going to deal with a publisher. And he said, well, I know how to do that. And he's got a great style. I mean, he just has a beautiful, beautiful public reader style, major market style. So when he sat down, something clicked in my brain, and I said, I think this is good. And I think, I don't even know if it was a handshake. I don't even know if
You
we
brought
got...
me an impact filter the next morning.
yeah, and I
Here's
kind of
success.
said, yeah. And, but the way we did it, and this is a way of thinking about 10 times, how we put the collaboration together, because you couldn't hire Ben. There's no way of hiring Ben, okay? You can't get this kind of talent by hiring them, okay? And we don't have that kind of talent inside the company, what we're looking for right here. And so he knows the entire territory, and he knows all the other people who can supply the capability that he doesn't know about. I don't know any of that stuff.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
So what I realized is that at the level we were operating with Ben, and then the other great collaborator on the project is Tucker Max. And Tucker, Tucker is just Tucker is the map maker for the publishing world. He really knows his stuff. And so originally we thought Ben's agent and publisher would be it, and that turned out to be not true. So we were at a Genius Network meeting, and Joe had it on publishing, and Ben was there for obvious reasons, and Tucker was there for obvious reasons, but Reed Tracy from Hay House was there. And I remember I walked into the room in Tempe. I walked into the room, and Reed was sitting there, and I said, hi, I'm Dan Sullivan. And he said, I know who you are. And he said, and he introduced himself, and he said, I followed your stuff for years, but you don't write major market books. And I said, well, that might change. And so Tucker and Ben took Reed out that night, and they essentially had the deal by the end of dinner for one book. And then as a result of the really fast start of the first book, Tucker and Ben worked with Reed, and so we have a 10-year, 10-book contract, and Ben determines every year what the book is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one.
No, but I want to tell you this. So people say, well, what's the financial deal? And I said, well, with a book, there's an advance and there's royalties. And they said, so how do you split it? And I said, well, it's really easy. I have a really easy split. It's called 100% zero. So Ben gets all the money. forever. Ben gets all the money for the book. And people say, you're giving away all the money? And I says, what money? What money are you talking about? There wasn't any money until you put the collaboration together. The collaboration created the money. How do I get paid? Every once in a while, somebody who reads the book signs up for the program. So far, 400. Average lifetime value, $40,000.
Tell them your goal for 2024, but then I want to share a thought on Free Zone.
Yeah.
Did you want to share your goal for 2024 or no?
Huh?
About the books.
Yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
Well, he said he wants 1,000 people in strategic coach in 2024 through the books.
Yeah, 2024. So, it grows because when you have a book out there and you put out a new book, the new book sells the book that's already out there. Books sell each other. You know that from fiction. Right?
The best marketing of your last book is your new book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an interesting thing because we know how to make money. Ben knows how to make money. So if you know how to make money, it doesn't have to be about money. But capability, acquiring, you can increase your capability by 10 times, and the IRS doesn't know it.
Can I, there's a couple things.
I was just giving this is in relationship to Garrett. Yeah, Garrett had a great line, Joe always says what Dan said first. I think that was the lineup. Yeah. But Dan doesn't say anything that anybody hears unless Dan knew Joe. So
Thank you.
just put things in their proper perspective.
Yeah, what also is...
And ours is a great collaboration.
Oh, absolutely. No, we have a fantastic collaboration. We don't have an affiliate thing. I'm the highest referring person to Strategic Coach. You're the highest referring person to Genius Network. Mm-hmm. And we try to refer people and recommend things that we know will make our clients better. If someone joins Strategic Coach as a Genius Network member, I know Strategic Coach is going to do things with them that are going to have them come back as a better Genius Network member, and vice versa. So that's how we collaborate, and we're also all of us are very much long term in terms of thinking, which has always been a weird thing for me because I'm a very spontaneous, impulsive, person. And what I do, though, is I stick with things that I see growth and benefit from and for where I feel good. Like what I would say, and I've heard this a lot with Genius Network and with Strategic Coach from other people also. Half the time I have no idea what the hell is going to happen when I go to Strategic Coach, but I walk out of there feeling better. I just I feel more capable, right? And I want people to walk out of here feeling more capable. Like, how many of you feel more capable, to use Dan's words, direction, confidence, capability, and clarity? How many of you feel more of that today than you did yesterday morning, right? So when you put yourself in those environments all the time, that's many of the reasons why we read certain books or we meet with certain people is to do that. And the collaboration between you and Ben did not even happen until you were 7 or 8 years into Genius Network, right? Because you started in 2010.
11.
2011, yeah.
11, yeah.
So, the thing is, what pains me is when
Oh, it is 10. It was November of 10.
Yeah, because I remember we shot a video in 2010 with a group of us, and at one of the first meetings you came to. And so the point is, like anything that you want in life, it's going to just be more effective if you go deep versus going shallow. And the problem is so many people, let me go to this mastermind or let me go to this seminar, and if it doesn't just hit me exactly, I'm going to... So one of the funniest things, two things that were very insightful when I started Genius Network to go to this 10 times thinking and stuff, is that I discovered that I did not expect is how many... Because most of the clients I targeted this to in the beginning were information marketers. We're a lot of marketers. And I've done my best to bring in the best marketers, but also distance myself because some of the greatest marketers in the world are the biggest con artists. And there's a lot of people that were information marketers that would talk about how much money they help people make. And I didn't realize how many people that claim they made a lot of money didn't have any money and could not afford to cut a check for 25 grand. That was fascinating to me. I'm like, weren't you just like shooting a picture in front of your fucking Ferrari and talking about how you made $1 million launch in 2 days and you can't cut a check? Like, what? Then you're completely bullshitting people about what you're actually doing. That was the first insight. The second insight is there are just as many rich seminar junkies as there are wannabes that just bounce from one event to the next, and they have money, but they just don't stick with anything. They're very promiscuous with their pursuit of, they don't like monogamy when it comes to groups. Let's go to this group and this group, and if you're in like 400 different groups, I mean, how deep can you go with any of them, right? So part of it is, and different groups resonate for different people. I mean, I think we've referred more people into different groups than any company that has a group, right? Because some things resonate with different people for different reasons. But the thing is when you find something that's good, go deep with it. And there are times, because I want to talk about what do you have to give up, if that's even the right word? I mean, what's the sacrifice? Because there are times in this journey all the time, and you all know this, where your business is kicking ass, and then a pandemic happens. Then your spouse dies. Then you have an employee that rips you off. There's some regulation that's made, some vendor. I mean, there's a million different things that are going to throw you off. And I think the group you go to, the people that you know, success, in my opinion, is not how much more shit you've learned. A lot of it has to do with your tolerance for bullshit. Like the same treadmill of shit, that I was dealing with 20 years ago, it's actually 10 times as amplified tremendously. So the treadmill of shit has never stopped. It's my ability to deal with it and my capabilities and who I turn to and my tolerance of it because of what I learned. The same stuff I deal with every morning would have killed me when I first started my business, damn near, 1990 was when I started my first, late 1989, 1990. And so, and I'll tell you, your thinking was the biggest accelerator for me. I mean, I came into strategic coach in dealing with one of the most personal crises I ever dealt with. I was, I was in active addiction as a result of something that had happened to me. And I'll tell you, it was one of the few things that gave me the ability to just function in a company when my life was personal chaos. My clients, fortunately, still did well, but I would go to bed many nights like wishing I was dead. I mean, I had a lot of suicidal thoughts during some of those periods of my time. And Coach was, as crazy as it sounds, was more helpful than most of the therapy I was doing.
Yeah, it was interesting last year when Joe was on sabbatical. We had Babs and I, we had sort of a check-in with you, but not about business, just, what were some of the experiences we were having. And I met Joe for the first time in 2008. He had done a year of the program with another coach, and then you jumped.
You mean 1998?
1998, yeah 1998. And I really clicked. I mean, the ones that were really crazy, I feel very comfortable with. It's the ones who sit there like this, that I have a hard time with. And so Joe, Joe and we've become fast friends, and we have nothing in common from a personality standpoint. I mean, we have zero in common.
Yes, it's true. It's pretty obvious if you're not paying attention.
but I think there are some fundamental issues of integrity, and that where I think we have common ground. And I was saying to Babs, when Joe started on his sabbatical, I said, when I first met Joe, he couldn't have taken a half-hour sabbatical.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, he would have been squirrely by 15 minutes,
It's true. It's true. Howard, you have to use the mic if he's itching to make it.
But I just want to finish this thought before we get started. And that is that it was a beautiful thing to watch last year of just checking in with Joe every month and then actually fully participating in the 100K program during that time. And all sorts of talents just rose to the surface in two ways. The team just got really, really great last year. So the capability you have in your team has been multiplied over the last year.
Very.
And the other thing is you found out there were other people who could totally facilitate meetings. And Howard is one of them. I think the 2 days that we spent with Howard, his agenda and his handling, I think, first of all, it was a huge surprise to me. I said, Howard, and it was just beautiful, and it was packed filled with really, really interesting people, including his cousin, who's Abraham Lincoln, well-known, worldwide known Abraham Lincoln expert. So it was really, really, really great. But when you see that, is that without working over the last year, you had two massive capabilities develop, but it was because of who you were over the previous 20 years that those capabilities developed.
No, totally, and that's one of the best things that came out of the sabbatical is the fact that I heard you say it, I heard other people talk about it. I'd go away for a little bit, but I never, take a whole year, and you don't realize how when your team, you don't know how good your team is until you leave.
Yep.
And I mean really leave, not just
until
like there to check on them.
Until they can't call you.
Yeah.
So until you can't rescue your team, you don't know how good your team is.
And Eunice is an example, who's in the back here. She has, next month she'll have been with me for 27 years. And Eunice is amazing. I mean, Eunice is amazing, and I didn't think she could do what she was able to do last year until I left. Her capabilities massively increased. It was incredible.
Well, that's actually one of the biggest keys to 10X. Is own freedom of time.
Yeah.
Right. It is about freedom. Ultimately, for me.
Well, but freedom of time.
Yeah.
Like most of the people who I've seen go 10X, often it's working 50 to 5, and then freeing yourself up.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been a strategic coach client since the late 90s. And what's funny is my son said, Dan, I think you're my dad. And Dan was like, what? And he's like, so many of the things that I grew up thinking were my dad's wisdom were really clearly. Yeah. But I wanted to tie a couple things together that I thought got lost for people who aren't as familiar. And the concept of free zone is when you have unique abilities and the ability to do something that allows you not to have to compete with somebody, but to create so much value. You're creating exponential results to the point that it's created competitive advantage, it's given you strategic certainty, it's letting you do things. Instead of being measured by somebody else's game or system, you actually get to change the game. And what 10X is about is the ability to get away from the thought process of how do I compete with other people in this red ocean, and how can I do something with somebody else where I'm out in new space where it's creating new dollars, not just for them, but for me, but it's also creating the space to stop thinking about how to do something and to really focus on what you want to do. And so the key, that's the free zone. And so the key to 10X is that it's easy to think back on the past, let's say, 5 levels of your business. Even if you're only 6 months into business, you can break it into 5 chunks. Mm-hmm. And what Dan created by helping you do that is the ability to feel confident that, yes, I really did go through those 5 steps. However big those steps are, you're now comfortable using that to imagine forward. And so in a sense, it's helping you imagine the future you want, and it's creating language and vision so that you can actually attract the right other people and their unique abilities to call into existence stuff you want even if you don't know how to do it. And it's the gift of strategic coach again and again and again.
Yeah.
One of the, just as a quick thought, one of the experiences that happens is, and with, just to connect a few dots with what Dan describes as unique ability, I think that it's different in different contexts. 5 years ago, unique ability focus for me would have been blogging really great articles. But the deeper and deeper you go into your own self-honesty, becoming extremely honest with yourself, one of the reasons why I hired a who in this case to actually write this book was that in this context, my unique ability is not to actually physically put the words on the paper, but to learn from Dan, to conceptualize and to collaborate with the right people who help me think about how to convey this book in the right way. And so it takes a lot of honesty, but also a lot of collaboration. And then the free zone is the space where there is no competition. One of the things that I love about what I've learned from you, Dan, first off, when you're in the gain mindset, you obviously immediately leave competition. You're no longer comparing yourself with others. And so what writing The Gap in the Gain did for me was allowed me to leave, internally, all competition disappeared. What collaboration and 10x free zone thinking does for me is I now no longer compete with any other writers or even businesses. It just allows you to just go deeper and deeper into your own unique ability and collaborate in spaces where it is easier. Actually, that is the only way to do it, is to go increasingly easier. And so my life is 10 times easier than it was 5 years ago, but the impact is enormously bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that thought that's really been occurring to me, thoughts visit me and then some of them don't leave. And the one that's just been on my mind now for about 2 or 3 months is that I believe that every person, every human, has inside of them a sense of normal that they're continually creating, that what constitutes normal. And it's unique. It's totally unique because it's all of your experience that you've made sense of. It's your aspirations. It's your capabilities. It's your knowledge. It's your habits. And you have a sense of normal. And if people try to change you, you resist because you want to protect your normal. Because you're really, at any given time, who you are to yourself is what's normal. And so when we first started doing the 10 times, and this wasn't out of any grand insight, but I said, well, I'll just ask a question here. How many of you can kind of remember back when you were 1/10, revenue-wise, you were 1/10 of where you are today, roughly? How many of you can do that? Okay. And can I ask you a question about what it was? Where you were, 1/10 of where you are right now, did that kind of feel normal at the time? Did it kind of feel normal at the time? And where you are today, does that feel kind of normal? So that was normal, and this is normal, but it's 10 times different.
And it's different. That's the key. It's not 10 times more or faster. It is 10 times different.
It's 10 times different. So normal is always normal, and this is one of the great disappointments of people, because they say, if I grow 10 times, I'm going to transform myself as a person, and I'll be a different person, and you get there, and you're the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the astronauts, all the astronauts, the rich, I think there were 13 who walked on the moon in the missions, and they got back, and they had, first of all, they had tremendous medical problems. Zero gravity and gamma rays don't do a lot of good for your system. So that's one thing that they have to figure out when they're sending them to Mars. But so here they are, they were little boys, they got interested in planes, they learned how to fly, a war came along, they were fighter pilots, and then they had test pilots. These were all, this was like 40 years before they got to walk on the moon. And, they get back, they go to the White House, they get a parade, and then they go back to Houston, and they're home for the weekend, and on Monday they have to check in at headquarters at NASA. And their wife says, now you're around here a bit, can you pick up some ground beef on the way home? Do you know who I am? Yeah, you've been missing. Yeah. So the big thing is your biggest goals will not transform you as a person. You'll still be the same person and you'll feel normal. And that's very unacceptable to a lot of people that, I'm going to go through all this growth and I'm going to go through all this achievement and it's still going to be me? And I said, yeah. And that's what really makes people unhappy about success. They thought that the success would make them into a different person. You're still the same person. So the best way to like yourself when you get there is to start off by liking yourself now.
This must be Benson genetics to just jump in line here.
I know. I was going to say, I just wanted to come up and ask, will you be my new dad?
I think Dan's contemplating it. He's trying not to give off a cue, but I see him thinking, maybe.
Zach, even at existing prices, I'm cheaper.
I think he has a question.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So with the, oftentimes I see success is when you have amazing collaboration between experts. But at the same time, I think when you get people that are really good and they're experts in a lane, it can sometimes be hard to collaborate because they think, oh, I'm the expert here. So what were some of the magic ingredients that made you two experts be able to make it such a magical match?
I think I was pretty much the glue that held this whole thing together.
So I should couch it and say, despite Joe, how did you guys make that work so well?
I think one of the keys to creating these type of collaborations is, one of the things that Dan and I both did, we did fill out an impact filter, and we were both very clear on the vision straight from the beginning. We both operate in our unique ability. I think that's one of the things that is key, is that there's increasing freedom because of the relationship. I have complete freedom in this relationship to be me. And, Dan knows that I'm the who that does these books. He's never overstepped that once. He's never told me what book to write, never told me how to frame a chapter, never even told me what chapters to write. In fact,
didn't change a word.
Even it was my idea to talk about 10x is easier than 2x today, because it's the book I'm writing right now, and so I'm thinking about it. So he gives complete freedom to the who in all aspects, and I think that that's one of the things that is difficult for an entrepreneur or a leader, is to allow complete trust to even in any form of employee. Does not matter the role. Dan does not view me any different than any other of his even employees. It's all unique ability teamwork, and so I've felt that freedom from the standpoint, from the beginning, and we both operate from want, not need. I wanted to be in this collaboration, and so there's no need.
Well, I would say a couple other things about Ben. One is that all the material we have in the program, and I think we have about 300 copyrights of various material, and I'm a tool maker. I basically know how to create
Simplifier.
Yeah, I know how to create thinking tools. I know how to structure questions and that. So, and it's about other people's experience, and I don't know the answers. They know the answers, so I just put them so that they can kind of understand, what they think about it. And, but I don't have any psychological background. I don't, and Ben has this really incredible depth of things that have been discovered in psychological research, philosophical, organizational research that I have no access to, and he brings all of that to the project. So I didn't have that, and the other thing, I'm a good writer. I was a copywriter with BBDO, a big ad agency, and it serves my purposes. I'm a fairly good artist, and it serves my purposes. But I couldn't make a living as a writer, and I couldn't make a living as an artist because I wouldn't stay with it. I'm not passionate enough about it to ever get better than the minimum necessary. And but Ben, here's the thing of the who not how that a lot of people realize, and Yeah, well, I've got a lot of who's, but, you know, and they're better than me, but they got to do it the way I want them to do it. I say, yeah, but the reason why they're better than you is that you don't know how to do it. So why are you hiring someone who knows how to do it and then telling them how to do it?
Yeah, it's a line that I heard from a guy interviewed years ago for hiring carpet cleaning technicians, believe it or not. His name is Jim Henry, he passed away. But he had a line where he's like, you know, you don't buy a dog and then bark for it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. But I want to answer your question because it's a crucial question, because I've seen a lot of collaborations not work. It isn't actually about the relationship with you and the other person. It's about actually who you want to be a hero to at the end of your work. So in the case of Ben, in the case of Tucker Max, in the case of Reed Tracy, we all have a love affair with entrepreneurial readers. And that's what holds it's never what's happening between you that holds it together. It's who you're doing this together for.
It's very clear.
Together for. And that holds it together. You know, you have to love to create value for someone outside of yourself. And if you don't do that, then it will get in the way.
But you do
that is
fundamentally, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's a really great line. You have to, you know, love creating value for other people, and yeah. And I think the key part of this too, this is an aside, but I just looked down and I realized I'm wearing socks that have pictures of me on them that someone had sent me, and I don't know how much this has to do with 10 times, but I'm thinking we got something here maybe.
Yeah.
And Narcissa socks. I was just thinking we could go. So I haven't registered that website. It's a huge idea. 10 times. Narcissa socks. I think we have something here.
Yeah.
Just put pictures of yourself on socks and get people to wear them and shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ben. You're gonna should we go to Babs or?
I think that's relevant to the discussion.
Yeah. So who are you? Who are you, young lady?
I'm Babs.
Yeah.
So I started creating, I wanted Dan's thinking to come out into the world more and more. So he was doing everything himself. So I started just peeling off things and getting other people to do it who could do it better than him. Not me. I might do it a little while and then just to understand how much I didn't know about it and then get somebody else to do it. But the thing to me that's makes for, when you're thinking of who to collaborate with, if you both have the same hero target, that's great. If you both have a 10x capability that the other one doesn't have, that's a really key thing, because it's all based on your unique ability. Then you can go, if you each have a 10x capability that you've been developing and you've already gone 10x with essentially, then you can put them together and go 100x. That's free zone.
Yeah.
So, and lots of exciting things come out of free zone that never would have happened before, ever, which, is very exciting to be around. And it's all made easier for us anyway by doing it with people who are in strategic coach and they've been in strategic coach for a while because they've been having more free time, so their brain gets more integrated. They've been, developing their unique ability. They have a team. They have unique ability teamwork in their company. So and when I look at the 3 sets of unique abilities on the stage, it's just really exciting because each of you is so entirely different.
Yeah.
But you have this, common theme and common hero targets, and so anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we both admire and want to be heroes to entrepreneurs. I would like to think we have very similar value systems in terms of being givers, not takers. The thing that I love most about Ben being a huge writer, millions of people reading him already, decides to go and get a PhD, right? I mean, both are, very much, about learning. And the thing I admire, I've had so many people that in the beginning, we do our best to like weed them out early on, or at least talk so much about giving that the people that are really takers, like, I fucking hate these group of givers, because they kind of know viscerally, like, I don't feel right here because I can't scam people as much as I can in other groups. You know, the thing with Dan is Dan always starts with the beginner's mind. Ben always starts with the beginner's mind. They don't go in being too cool for school. They're all, you know, like Dan is one of the best. He fills out an impact filter before he comes to Genius Network, fills out an impact filter afterwards. Why does he get so much out of the group?
Did it this morning.
He does. He spends a few minutes thinking about, what do I want out of it? And then after it's done, what did I get at? So he looks at this as before, during, and after. A lot of people come to groups and it's the during thing, and then they're off to the next freaking event. Then they're off to the next busyness, and they don't give themselves any. In carpet cleaning, before you clean a carpet, you vacuum first, then you pre-spray the carpet, and it's called dwell time. You just let it sit. And it's like if you had a plate of spaghetti sauce dried on a plate, and you just go immediately under the sink to try to wash it, it's hard to scrub it off. But if you just let it soak for a few minutes, it just rinses right off, right? With a little bit of effort. People don't give themselves dwell time, and these two are great at that version of that sort of stuff. And so part of this is not to just have everyone hear, you know, insights and perspectives and strategies and collaborations, but I also want this to represent that sitting next to you are many people that you could collaborate with that are aligned with you. Others aren't. You're just in different spaces. That's okay. But I want you to see, you know, this is a connection network, and a lot of stuff could happen if you give it time. And if you're too quick to have a result or something happen, not that results quickly can't happen, because they do all the time, but there are certain things that just takes time. You know, you're not going to eat one meal and all of a sudden you know, Whitney Jones doesn't just like randomly work out every once in a while and eat a particular meal. She can eat a freaking Oreos every day and a donut because she's spent fucking years, not even that long a year. She said, you know, 35 when she started. So it's not like a lifetime. It's just putting your efforts directed in a way to get a particular result. Because these guys are all about results too. It's not just, oh, you know, I mean, no, they want results. They're result thinkers. So anyway.
Well, one way you can look at...
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Ben.
One way you can look at it is, if you were to compare your current self with yourself a year ago, how much more teamwork is going on, and how much more are you free in your thinking from complexity? It's one of the benefits of continuously freeing yourself from all forms of complexity. That's one of the things that is the I don't know what you called it, dwell time.
Yeah.
But as much time as you can dwelling, thinking, being in flow, reducing stress. I think that a gap and gain mindset removes all sorts of demons of competition, but the amount of ease and flow of being in your unique ability and then just having increasing teamwork. I would invite you guys to see how much time you have in simplicity, ease, and how much teamwork.
Yeah, totally.
Garen Jones, thank you guys for what y'all are doing. So I'm interested in the concept of the 10X philosophy. And you had said something about, you know, how you were 10 years ago, or back then when you were 1% something.
1/10.
Yeah. And you felt normal. It was normal to you then. And then when you 10X that, or how you feel now, is normal to you now, so you still feel like the same person. I've never heard that frame of reference, because 10 years ago, I was homeless, living in my car for 2.5 years, and now I'm doing amazing things in the world. I feel different. I don't feel the same, and it doesn't feel normal for me, but I've never heard someone say in 10X reference, you feel normal, and something about the way that you said it made my nervous system feel really calm. And I'm wondering, is there a way, because when I grow and I know I'm about to grow, I put myself in either voluntary discomfort, I know something really difficult is about to make me feel very unnormal for me to stretch into that capacity. Is there a way to get to that 10X where it's like calm and peaceful all the way through to the point where you feel actually normal? I don't feel normal.
Well, it's a great question. So, you know, when we do it backwards, when we go back to the 1/10, we say arbitrarily, you say it might have been, might have been 20 years, might have been 5 years, but I said arbitrarily just break it down into 5 growth stages, okay? And we grow through what I call a cash formula, that we've acquired new knowledge. That's part of the reason why we've multiplied. Also, our attitudes have changed, how we look at things. And then there's skills. So now new knowledge, new attitudes generate new skills. And then skills that you do permanently. In other words, you do permanently, they're habits. So I call it cash. And I don't know who, I've tried to find out who created this acronym, and it's on Google, but I can never find who did it. But it's very, very true. There's things you need to know that you didn't know. You have to look at things differently. You have to be able to perform better, and you got to be consistently, keep that performance at a consistent level. And that's, and you have to realize that if you're one person and the other 9 aren't doing it, you're just going to grow much about it. But I think that the abnormal part of it is that, and this might be useful for you. After a certain point, you're not doing it for how other people will look at you. You're doing it for how you'll look at you, okay? And and your freedom has expanded. There's 4 freedoms, the entire strategic coach program. I'm really a freedom coach. I mean, if people asked me once, what kind of coach are you? And I said, I'm a freedom coach. I like freedom. I like it for myself. And I find if you want freedom for yourself, you have to grant it to other people. You can't have any freedom that you don't grant to other people. So I said, I'm just granting an enormous amount of freedom to other people so they can be free. Okay, I treat Ben as I would like to be treated. I think. So my sense is there's 4 ways we can measure freedom. One is time, quality of time and quantity of time. The other one is money. The third thing is relationship, both personal and business. And the 4th one is purpose. And that is, are you doing things for your reasons or are you doing it for other people's reasons? Okay, and I think that gets more powerful, and growth in one area of freedom automatically grows the other 3 freedoms. So I think that's how you're different. I mean, you're very, very different now. But I will remind you that living in a car homeless was normal for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it more than one night.
True.
One thought I have for you is you're comparing what's normal for you now to what was, of course, to your former self, this isn't normal, and maybe you're in a new environment, so it doesn't feel normal, but I think the faster you accept that you committed to this, you've created this life, you're here now, the sooner you just accept that this is your normal life, then you can invite the next normal. And it always is a commitment. Dan has his 4 C's, but you committed to being in this room. You committed to every upgrade from leaving the car, and eventually, and so I think just accepting that this is the life you created for yourself. And then if you want to go 10x, that's going to be a commitment you make. But this is your normal. This is where you're at.
Yeah.
And so it's just accepting it. You don't have to keep fighting against your past self.
The other thing, whatever your biggest goal is right now, since you've done it already from where, you made a big leap from where you were before.
Way more than 10x.
And so what it means is that you're totally capable of making a leap like that, right? It'll be different circumstances, different involvement, but you'll get there, and you'll be here. You'll probably be on stage talking out, but you'll be normal. You'll be normal. See, the big thing that people won't accept is this normal, and it's what we're working on. Every day people are working on their normal, and we don't like being budged off we will change our normal, but we don't like having our normal changed by other people. Truckers, for example, don't like having their normal.
One last thought for you is just, and I think Dan actually hit it earlier in your question, and then I think we probably have to finish, but it really has nothing to do with what anyone else in this room thinks about you, literally.
Can't do any more questions, sorry guys.
It's no one else. I think the more and more you just realize you're not competing with anyone else, you can connect with everyone in this room. The deeper you go into the connections, but you get deeper and deeper into not worrying about other people's reactions to you, needing to worry. I really don't. I can't control anyone's reaction to, or even, I can't even comprehend their interpretation of this experience. And so you don't need to worry about that. And I think the further you go into that as well, there's a lot of ease, a lot of peace. And so it actually frees you up to just go wherever you're going to go next. You don't create friction by worrying about so many external things you have no control over anyways.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and sorry we can't do more questions. We're past time at this point. So thank you. Thank you. Well, I guess I'll leave it. There's so much more that we could certainly talk about, which is why we will always have. That's why this is not a one-time event. This is an ongoing thing. These are conversations. They're constant conversations, and they're ways to think about stuff. And the commonality is, I believe, most people are here to better themselves in all kinds of different ways, and so we're just going to talk about all that stuff continuously, and we will share. And I've had a very long-term relationship with Dan and Babs and Strategic Coach and me and Ben for now several years. We've done a lot together, and I look forward to it. I mean, I think we are, we all utilize and help. We don't use each other; we utilize each other. There's a big difference between using someone and utilizing somebody. And so what advice would you both have? This will be the parting words, as any sort of quick advice you would have for, there's a lot of new people here. There's a lot of people that, they could be sitting next to or very close to the collaboration that could be a huge multiplier for them, but it may not happen for, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. And people's lives have a lot of things happening. So to make the most of it, what advice would you give to everyone sitting here now in lieu of this conversation?
Yeah, I think that the more space you give yourself to continuously become increasingly honest with yourself. For me, journaling is my form of doing that. Just getting really clear on where I'm at, what I want, and just being honest with myself. The more honest you are with yourself, the easier your life is in the long run. Yeah, it can be painful in the moment, but it's a deep invitation to just be increasingly honest about anything that's frustrating or anything that you want. And for me, journaling is that practice. As far as just coming into this meeting or just being a new member or just creating collaborations. I think Joe's writing the book. It's called What's in It for Them. But just always just striving to be a giver. And I guess continually working on yourself so that you have the capability to create those free zones. What are the incredible capabilities that you can develop, your own unique skills that you can then combine with incredible people? It's just fun. And so, that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's I'm more aware of, and I think it's becoming more obvious in the world, is that there's actually two kinds of intelligence that allow you to grow. One of them is what I call brain intelligence, and brain intelligence is you've got enough. You've got enough to actually see opportunity. You know how to create. You know how to organize around opportunity, and that, and there's lots of people who have that. The other intelligence is what I call mind intelligence. So for me, there's a distinction between brain and mind. Brain is, what you came, first day, you had a certain amount of intelligence, and mind intelligence is using your brain intelligence to access the unique brain intelligence of other people, okay? I've seen people go all through life, they had a terrific brain, but they never had any mind. They never had any mind. And I decided when I hit 70, I'll be 78 in May, when I decided 70, that the rest of my life was strictly using the intelligence I had at 70 to increasingly access the unique intelligence of other people and create collaborations with. So one thing, I'm 44 years older than Ben, at least I will be in 3 months. And it's really, really interesting that that doesn't matter at all. That doesn't matter at all, the age difference. I have clients who are 50 years older than me, and it doesn't matter because it's strictly about growth. And so I'm really pleased. I would like to point out Babs, that if I hadn't met Babs, I'd just be a smart drunk worried about the rent.
Yeah. All right, to be continued as always. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Joe.
Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, appreciate it. All right, I think Timothy, are you going to come up and?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir, I am. So what do you think of...
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.